On her 29th birthday, the woman made only one wish, to see the boy who once loved her again. But when she opened her eyes, the man beside her was not her cold husband. It was his 19-year-old self. The boy was stunned. 1 second ago, he was still a reckless student. The next second, he had crossed 11 years into the future and was lying in bed with the woman he was supposed to marry. What shocked him more was this: the future him had money, power, and a huge house, but his wife looked abandoned. She looked at him with pain, because this young man was the last proof that her husband had once loved her. Soon, the real husband called. He was the powerful president everyone feared, calm and distant. Birthday gifts were chosen by assistants. Apologies became compensation. Even concern sounded like scheduled maintenance. The young man heard every word. He could not believe the future version of himself had turned the girl he loved into a lonely wife. Furious, he grabbed her phone and called that man a dead man. On the other side, the husband froze. He had heard a man's voice beside his wife. At that moment, the cold husband lost control. He asked where she was, rushed home, and saw the red marks on her neck. He wanted to question her, but in the end, he only invited her to dinner. At the table, he still acted indifferent, but the woman remembered the past. 11 years ago, the same boy had held her hand and promised to stay with her for life. Now, the man in front of her could not even say he missed her. That was when she gave up. She told him their marriage had failed, and the divorce agreement must be signed. The husband went silent. He thought she was only throwing a tantrum. However, this time she was serious. She no longer wanted gifts, money, or another cold apology. She wanted to leave the man who had forgotten how to love her. But then, the 19-year-old him appeared again. He cleaned the house, cooked for her, and wore a pink apron to make her smile. When he saw her crying over the food, he panicked. He said he would cook again. He asked what he had done wrong. He wiped her tears, because in his world, he would never let her suffer alone. The contrast almost broke her heart. The young boy loved her openly. The adult husband loved her in silence, hiding all his fear behind pride. Soon after, the woman returned to work. Her colleagues mocked her behind her back. They said her bonuses, projects, and position were all gifts from her husband. One woman even tried to push her away from the main seat at dinner. But the next second, the president himself walked in. Everyone rushed to please him, but his eyes stayed on his wife. When the proposal was mentioned, he did not praise the flatterers. He looked straight at her and approved her plan. Then he said her team could be built by herself. The people who had mocked her were stunned. The woman who wanted her seat went pale. Only then did they realize she was not a useless trophy wife. She was the one the most powerful man in the room had been protecting. But the real shock came that night. As she left the dinner, the 19-year-old boy suddenly appeared outside and hugged her in front of everyone. He told her not to be afraid. Across the street, the adult husband saw everything. He stared at the boy with the same face as his own past, because the rival stealing his wife was not another man. It was the version of himself who had never broken her heart.